let's talk about site payments, because there aren't a lot of things in the clinical space that get me as excited as site payments. So I'm going to go with this statement. Site payment issues that existed in the past have been mostly solved. We agree or disagree? Negative. So about my experience with site payments, about 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to attend an SCRS summit down in Florida. Normally, I'm in a room with all these sponsor people talking about the issues they face. That was the first time I got into a room with about 800 site people and got to hear their concerns. And I got to tell you, it was 2 days of listening to people talk about the problems with site payments. And I left there just really angry and wondering why that's an issue. And since then, I've become aware of many companies out there who have solutions to solve the problem. And clearly from your votes, it seems like that's not happening. So Chris, I'm going to go to you first and say, what's the matter with you guys?
Oh, God. The more times a site wants to be, a couple of points here. The more time a site wants to be paid, the more the clock rings at the CRO, which means we have to pay the CRO more time, more dollars. So I really like the thought of quarterly payments. And if they're done properly and the site, I know, Rebecca, just put up the big disagree. I like the thought of quarterly payments. I like the thought that CRAs need to at least qualify the data that they've all been entered and they're up to date. And to me, I could live happily that way. Where I can't live happily with site payments is my fuss at Rebecca's, not her personal site, please, but my fuss at sites. We're a year out from completing studies, and they were closed out last June and July. And we're still getting invoices from those folks. So, that's 10 months. Where is their financial accounting and accountability? If sites made a more concerted effort to say, within 60 days of us closing you out, we will have all of your bills, I would be a happy camper. Because we have to leave the contracts open. You've got to keep people on the thing. So it's not good on either direction, not only from the sponsor, but also from the site.
If
Rebecca,
the sponsor made it easier to invoice, then the sites wouldn't have to spend so much time invoicing.
Rebecca, quarterly payments, is that good enough or not?
Or
does it depend on the site?
It definitely does. So, fortunately, we're a successful company, but I communicate with a lot of different sites. So we have to pay our patients. We pay our patients the day of the visits. We have to pay our physicians. We have to pay all this money out of pocket. And then if we don't get that payment for, 3 months, that's on us. So it's just, we still have to pay everything as it happens. And then the sponsor just doesn't pay us, until the quarter happens. So there's some sites, and I know at SCRS, they did a big survey, and there's some sites that only have, 1 to 3 months of money in their bank account to be able to function. And so that makes it really difficult.
But Rebecca, I would submit, counterpoint, I would submit that we give I won't say it's generous, but we generally give a good upfront payment for you guys to get started before your first patient even walks through the door. So some of those funds could help offset some of the initial costs that you're experiencing with patients.
And Sam, I want to come to you in a second, but Rebecca, just one final thought. How often is it that you receive invoices months after a trial has ended that maybe you weren't even expecting? Or how often do you receive a check from a sponsor company finally, and it's just a check with an amount on it and you have no idea what it's for? I've heard from sites that are having to hire people just to manage these finances who don't even deal with patients or anything else, but just dealing with these patient issues. That can't be a good deal for sites.
Yeah, we pretty much have 2.5 people on our financial team that don't see any patients, and their responsibility is to, send out invoices, make sure that they know all the little SAEs, the IND safety reports the dry score, make sure that we get paid because we're paying for those. And then yes, at the end of the study, it could be months later. Sometimes we'll get a check and it's a one lump sum check, and we have multiple sites working on the same studies. And it's just, it's
That's sad.
you just gotta figure it out.
I totally agree with you, Rebecca.
And Sam, from the CRO side, I mean, there's obviously issues here. What more can CROs be doing to help with this issue? I know there are solutions out there. I know there are solutions that are owned by some of the bigger CROs. Is there more that they can be doing to help with this?
Let me start here. First, Ed, I think we could have an entire webinar just on site payments, especially when it comes to global site payments, not even counting the United States. There is good work happening there. This goes back to that area that I was talking about earlier, again, about specialization. And some of the best models I've seen are those that have specialized in one functional service area, such as site payments. I think that there is a lot of disconnect that we often find within certain organizations between finance, the people actually administering the payments on one end, and then the data that's feeding into both of these groups in order to issue those payments. And there are a lot of areas, if you sort of chart that out on a timeline, there are a lot of areas where things can fall through the cracks. And I will just go back to a point that Rebecca made a few minutes ago about cash flow. When COVID-19 really got going last year around this time, we were hearing from sites that were out of money. I mean, they had on average about 90 days worth of cash reserves to be able to run. And as studies went on hold, that cash dried up. So I think that the more frequently we are able to make payments, the better. I know Chris will disagree with that, but if we can do that more than quarterly, I think that's the way to go. Because a happy site is going to make everybody's lives a lot easier.
Okay. So Rebecca, just one final thought on that. It seemed like last year was a year when sites definitely could have used some extra help from their sponsor companies. I did sit in on some webinars where I heard folks from sponsor companies saying that they were advancing payments to sites to help them out and treating them like a true partner and so forth. Just from your experience or maybe talking to other site folks that you know, was there enough done? Do you feel like sponsor companies really stepped up last year to give sites the help that they needed financially?
Not really. There were some, actually there was one company that proactively released a holdback and paid that to the site. That was really nice. I did reach out to every company that we worked with, and the request was denied by everyone. And so, and then in addition to that, I did ask when it became the remote monitoring visit that we had to increase all of our time with the remote monitoring. That I had early on asked for reimbursement for that, and that was declined. However, probably 5-6 months ago, after COVID did not go away, that all those requests were accepted. So that was nice. But again, it takes a lot of effort and from the site side to go after the sponsors and make these requests and follow up with these requests. It's not really, doesn't feel like a partnership from that standpoint.
Okay, any last thoughts from anyone before I wrap it up? Chris, I really thought you were going to jump in with a final comment here. Anything at all? No. All right. We had a couple of topics I was hoping to get to. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. I won't be able to get to that. I may follow up with the speakers to get their thoughts on them. So if I produce an article from this, maybe we can at least get them onto the website where we're going to talk about communication and about patient diversity as well. Even though we didn't get to those, this was really a lot of fun. So I thank you guys for taking the time to be on here today and sharing these viewpoints and for making the conversation really enjoyable. For everybody who joined us today, I hope that you enjoyed it as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you on our next edition of Clinical Leader Live. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.